I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and I'm the founder of SIPS Healthcare Solutions.
Cherry Brown.
Yes,
how you doing
sir.
today?
I am doing awesome. And yourself?
Doing well, doing well. There are a lot of things going on right now. There's a lot of conversation going on out there, and one of those conversations is surrounded by the talks and the experiences of DEI. Mm-hmm. So over the years of you being in sterile processing, you being in the healthcare industry, becoming a councilwoman, building a multi-million-dollar business in the healthcare space, I know that there got to be some stories what you're dealing with DEI. So let's talk about it from the beginning of what it is that DEI was and how you saw it and how you started your process and navigating through that early on.
Okay. So interesting you say DEI, because I'm going to take it back to affirmative action. So I'm grateful for DEI, affirmative action prior to DEI, which coming up, like you said, in sterile processing as a employee and navigate even challenges with that. There were opportunities for me to even get promotions within the department prior to getting into management. And, it was just be grateful we hired you, you'll never go any further. And I remember going back to school at 30 and, getting a degree. And so now I'm qualified for a supervised position that came open. I'll say more than qualified, because that supervised position it didn't say that you had to have a degree. It didn't require a degree. So there was me and 2 Caucasian females that applied for this position. Unbeknownst to me, affirmative action even existed, just ignorance on my part. But when I applied for the position, I had perfect attendance, great performance evaluation, and now I have a degree. Even the minority people in the department said that I was silly to apply for that position, because they said the other people that were applying for them. And I say that to say that's just where, our mentality was that because we looked a certain way, then we should just be happy that we were in these positions, right? And so it turned out I got the position. Everyone said the only reason I got that position was because of affirmative action. Never mind, I was the only one that had a degree, but because of affirmative action. And so, I'd say, and after I understood what affirmative action was, then I said, I'm grateful for that. So I'm gonna move forward a little bit even.
Before you move forward,
okay.
We want to just talk about affirmative action and DEI, because it sounds like a lot of the same conversation is going on. You were qualified for the position, the only one qualified for the position, yet still they tried to paint the pictures. The only reason that you got it was because
of affirmative action.
Never mind. So talk about that aspect a little bit of being qualified for the position and still being looked at as you're only here because of affirmative action. And some people may say you're only here because you're a woman or you're the color of your skin.
Yeah, I think that's ignorant. I think that's the most ignorant thing. And I also think it's one of those things that, people say that to try to play it down. And I think it's really important that we don't allow society, to play that down, because let's be real. Most people, it used to be, top people in corporations weren't minority. And so they were able to have their companies look however they wanted them to look. And I mean, it's your company, and justly so, but if it's a corporation, even with your company, I'm grateful for affirmative action. If it's a small company, large company, that there is some measure in place that says, let's just look, let's try to be fair, which affirmative action actually says equal opportunity for job employment. It wasn't based on color, it said equal opportunity. And if we look at DEI, same thing. Because DEI, the D for, look, my blank, for diversity, but it's embracing. Oh. So DEI, so diversity, but it's embracing our differences. And then the E for equity, it's making sure that we treat everybody fairly. And then the I is inclusion, making sure that we respect each other's differences, our backgrounds, our cultures. And so prior to all that, me being in leadership, now I'm in these interviews, right? Brought in for these meetings, these interviews, and I'm looking at the group and I'm not included, right? But they're looking at interview applications and they're throwing certain resumes in the trash and then deciding, Karen, you can call these people. So I'm one that's gonna go back and look and see. So I saw it was names like LaQuisha, Shanae, I'm exaggerating on the Shanae, but it was obviously they were pulling out names that looked like ethnic names and throwing those in the trash. And so with my name being, and I'll back up even further, it was Karen Lindsay when I first got into sterile processing. Prior to sterile processing, I was a dental assistant in California. California is a lot modern than a lot of cities as far as being able to embrace culture, embrace change. And I moved to Mississippi because of a situation and end up trying to get a job as a dental assistant in Mississippi. So I saw in the newspaper, because this was before you looked online to find jobs, on the newspaper where they had 2 dental assistants. And I was so excited about being able to go interview for these jobs. So I sent my resume. Both people called me, and as it turned out, my interview was on the same day. So I go to one place in the morning, and the person looked at me and she said, I said, I'm Karen Lindsay and I'm here for the dental assistant interview. She looks down and then she goes and she gets the dentist. He comes out and he says, we already have a gal that cleans our offices. So I said, well, I'm here for the position. He just cracks up, turns around, he mumbles, nobody wants your black hands in their mouth, and went back in his office. So I go that afternoon to my other interview. I'm gonna nail this one for sure. My feelings were really hurt, but I go to the next one. Dentist didn't even come out. The person says, and I'm assuming they probably called, person says, the dentist is not in. But I see all these people in the lobby, and he's the only dentist there. It's his one dentist office. So I said, well, do you know when he'll be back? And she said, I said he's not here. So needless to say, I never heard from anyone. But the next day they put in the paper, send you a resume and a picture. Yeah. So that was, early on that I wish there had been maybe affirmative action in place that would have stopped people from being, just blatantly rude, just blatantly mean.
In the current climate of our country right now, in these times, there's a lot of talk whether D should be there or DEI shouldn't be there. It's only putting people in places because of their differences, their ethnic differences, their gender differences, or whatever the case may be. When it comes to that conversation, if DEI and or affirmative action would not have been a part of the way things worked, where do you see Karen and where do you see SIPS if it wasn't for that?
Oh, I don't feel like we would have been able to get through the doors like we did. I could have kicked and screamed as hard as I wanted to, but if there was nothing in place to say, hey, and whether that was that you'll get, you can't get government funding, I don't know what it was, but I do know that the government stepped in and said, these are the things we need to do, that you have to do in order to make sure that you can continue with your business. And I think back with, if it wasn't in place, so unbeknownst, like I said, that supervised position, and then even with starting a company, I remember one of the things that was said to me when I went to a place on the East Coast. We ended up getting the contract, but I mean by then we were booming, we were doing well, and we should have gotten the contract. But one of the things that they said was they would give us a $250 bonus if we actually achieved our deliverables, which I told them was something that they should never do, because if you hire someone, you're paying them to achieve it. And I found out a year later, we were a joke to them, that they hired us thinking that we wouldn't even make it 6 months. So it was pretty much like a bet. But when that 12 months came, I'm like, you need to give me that $250,000. But, and I think it's just, like I said, sad how people in positions play with other people's livelihood. Because someone hired them. They weren't always there. And who decides that one race, one gender is more important than the other? And that's funny because when my mother named me Karen, I used to get so mad because I was integrated, the school I was in second grade. And so walking down the hall, people would say, hey, Karen, hey, Karen, hey, Karen. Every white girl turned around and they would, wave at them. And I remember going home and saying to my mama, why'd you name me that white girl name? And my mother said, one day you'll understand why I named you Karen. So fast forward to the question that you asked me. Now I have an MBA, umpteen years of experience, and I go to meet someone at an airport about a position. The person had looked at my resume, so assumed I looked a certain way and told me where to meet. I'm sitting there waiting on the person. The person walks past me. Nobody's there but me. The person walks past me, and I kind of lean up because I'm thinking, that he's going to come over to me. And then he kept going, so I said, well, maybe that's not him. Comes back by, and so I just called his name. He says, like, you aren't Karen, are you? I said, yes, I am. And then I said, were you expecting someone else? He said, yeah, I kind of was. And that wasn't the only time. It was a situation where I'm in another state and they had looked at my resume, and I was the perfect candidate. I'm starting work that morning and they said to meet them in the lobby at 7:00. I was doing interim. So that, some people may say, well, why did they not even look at you? I was doing interim. So they were looking at resumes at that point. And I'm in the lobby at 6:30 waiting, to this person to meet me at 7. Person comes out about 6:45 and no one's in the lobby. And I looked and I'm thinking that must be the person that's coming to get me. Again, looks at me, goes back to the back. And then I get a call from the company saying, are you anywhere close to the hospital? I said, yeah, I'm in the lobby. Oh, that's interesting. She said she didn't see you. She comes back out a few minutes later and she's looking around again. So I call her name and she's just looking me, up and down. And then she takes me and gets me acclimated, introduces me to everybody. So yeah, it's sad that, and this was not that long ago. Yeah, I would say, first of all, look up DEI so you'll really understand what it means, because I'm saying even at the level of political people, it just amazed me when I heard some men that are governors and then people that were on the streets asked the question, do you think that, and I'll say Kamala Harris was the vice president because she was African American and a woman. And they were like, yeah, not to look at all of her history, her qualifications, but I mean, just ignorance. And I say ignorance because I feel like if people knew better, then they would give better educated answers. And so what I would like to say to someone that's looking at that, asking that, is to first educate yourself, understand, but I really feel that DEI is still important. Because if we were able to just go back to the way things were before DEI, before affirmative action, there would be a lot of very qualified, intelligent people that are overlooked because of one's perception. Well, for one, we are a very family-focused business, and we believe in helping people achieve their goals. Bottom line is we care about you, we care about what your goals are, and we want to help you achieve them. I'm Karen Cherry Brown, and I'm the founder of SIPS Healthcare Solutions.